Let's talk about Velma. Oh well. Yeah, sorta, kinda, at least, in regards to, one, hate watching, and in regards to it being, well, de facto rage bait. And whether or not that's a good or bad thing from a business perspective. I'm sorry, the thing is, in many cases, there are many shows that have been accused of basically being rage bait, attempting to draw in an audience by simply being so awful that people almost have to see it just to understand how bad it is, thereby drawing in an audience. And in most cases, I think it's wildly exaggerated, as deliberately making something bad in order to fool in a handful of suckers is, I feel like, not a long-term sustainable business strategy, outside of the producers, I suppose. But in the case of Velma, I can almost see it. Because the stuff they put in those two first episodes, it was difficult to describe, let's just put it like that, but getting back to the original point here. Something's been making the rounds across the internet, which is this little poster right here. Max Original, Mindy Kaling is Velma, biggest premiere day, and then goes a long blurb of text for a Max Original animated series ever. And people are going like, oh, this is them damned hate watchers, they're giving it success, if only we could all agree to just not watch it, none of this would be happening, and entertainment would be dead, etc. No. Okay, here's the thing. I agree in theory. If everybody simply didn't watch Velma or any other wokeist entertainment, which I don't even know if Velma's woke. I've also seen a hilarious Twitter thread go around basically from wokists saying that Velma might be anti-propaganda, presenting their position in such a terrifically bad light as to turn people off it. And again, I kind of see their point of view for once, but okay, so if everybody just ignored it, sure, it would probably die. But here's the thing, that's an impossibility. It's like saying that if the sky above HBO Max studios would suddenly simply just fall and kill everyone inside, or more correctly, kill only the people working on Velma, that too would stop it, but it's not going to happen. Nor is some sort of organized internet boycott against a show of almost any type whatsoever. I mean, hell, even Amazon's The Rings of Power managed to pull off a relatively decent reverse review bomb into the positive. You can't organize people to that degree. What you can do, however, and that's the point I've been making with The Rings of Power as well, is that you can influence the normies, which are the intended audience for this. So let's look at the little blurb for a while again. Biggest premiere day. Now, first and foremost, HBO Max is only like, what, 4 years old or something? It hasn't been around forever. And it doesn't have a whole lot of animated shows either, which we'll get back to in a second. So being the biggest launch day is not actually that difficult when you add in the qualifier. For a Max Original animated series, they've only got 5 of those, and only one of them, I believe, is still actually ongoing. You could even disqualify a couple of them for being mini-series as well, meaning that Velma's success here is being the first amongst turds. And again, this entire poster is one thing. It is advertisement. It is marketing, because hate watching doesn't actually do any harm to our position in the case of HBO Max. Assuming you hate watching it because you already have a subscription, because there's the deal. HBO Max doesn't get any money from ads unless you're using the cheaper version, which you pay for a monthly subscription fee plus ads, in which case the subscription fee is still what the makers, HBO Max, the big shots, want. They're after your monthly investment. They're not after your view. Our hate watch view of Velma does not grant them anything, essentially. And even if it is on the advertised version, it'll give them a couple of cents, if they're lucky, maybe even a whole dollar, whoop-de-doop-de-doop-de-doo. But my point is, it doesn't actually matter for them. What matters is that it drives subscriber growth through the platform. And a show that is currently sitting on, what was it, 6% positive? is not going to be drawing any subscribers to the platform that wouldn't already be determined to watch the show based on ideology, I guess. So hate watching does drive down the review scores, because people hate it. And people like me, whose literal job it is to watch shit like this, tell you that it's absolute garbage, so that you can wander over to the platform and, do what you do. If you've got access to it already, or Rotten Tomatoes, or IMDb. Now, for the Rings of Power, I pointed out that it was important you watch at least the first episode or so that you could give a educated review, since that was a cultural battleground at the time, and simply leaving a false review would give ammunition to the opposing side. But in the case of Velma, whatever you can think up, the worst thing you can imagine, it's probably in the first 2 episodes, so go wild, I guess. But the point is, a hate watch of Velma is not a big deal, and it does not actually benefit HBO Max in almost any way, so long as you don't specifically purchase a subscription to do so, which I doubt anyone is going to be quite so foolish as to do, frankly. And when they make something like this, again, this is marketing. This is them going to the normies, the people who have no idea what I'm talking about, what you're talking about, etc., no idea of the cultural aspects of this, and going, hey, this show has been watched by a lot of people, so surely it must be good. Therefore, you should go subscribe to it as well, because we're making you curious as to what it is. Which is also why you've got this this background here, which almost looks mildly cool. You've got like little green hands reaching out, you've got the mysterious light, she's got the magnifying glass. It looks like a mystery-solving thing, which it isn't at all. It's borderline false advertisement, almost, in fact, which will only just turn off more people. Now, I also heard the rumors that they're apparently already renewed the show. This is not because of the hate watching, and I can say that categorically, even if the hate watching was an issue, even if we say that 100,000 people hate watched it, just because, and those 100,000 also gave them 100,000 subscriber revenue. Okay. Even in that case, a show would not be renewed this quickly because of the internal bureaucracy of these companies. No decision is made in a week, much less a month, or even a month, more correctly, etc. If the show is already renewed, it was already planned for 2 seasons to begin with, and they are using the renewal announcement as yet another point of marketing, because it makes you think that the show is doing well. Same thing that Amazon did with the Rings of Power, where they were like, Rings of Power, first 2 episodes watched by billions, etc. And they probably were, because a lot of normies who had no idea about the wider context of the show were like, holy shit, a Lord of the Rings TV show, I'm gonna have to watch that. And then they saw Galadriel leap off the boat, and then they never watched another episode, which also turned out to be the case, as the viewership for the show plummeted after those first few episodes. And as for rage bait, right, okay, this hinges on the old idea, the old adage, that there is no such thing as bad PR. And that was absolutely true back in the day when the internet and even television basically didn't exist on a large scale. In that case, if you made a whoopsie, your face would be on the news, it would be on the radio, etc. And that would allow you to reach a hell of a lot more people than if you weren't on those things, because a person's social reach was minute in the extreme. Whereas today, social reach is actually relatively easy to acquire. Even just a rando can get thousands, tens of thousands of views on Twitter, for example, so long as they make something stupid or poppy enough. Even for brands like HBO Max here, visibility is no longer really the problem. When you're a major streaming platform, getting the message out isn't the hard part, especially when you own a TV channel. But getting people to actually give a shit in an era where you are overwhelmed by entertainment, where your streaming giant is but one of a dozen other competitors, where you're up against YouTube, you're up against Netflix, you're up against the countless various ways of free information people are getting, then it is very difficult to get the good PR, because what you need then is not any PR. Because you can read people, it is convincing them to come to you that is difficult, which is why today there absolutely is such a thing as bad PR. When a normie goes, "Oh, Velma, what was that based on? Scooby-Doo? That's weird. Where's the dog?" I'm like, okay, I'll go to Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb or any of the other dozens of review sites, or I'll go to my favorite YouTube, etc., etc., and look up Velma, and they see me laughing hysterically in genuine desperation, or a pair of cockroaches on me. They're not gonna pay $15 a month for the show. Oh God, Velma. So, no, I do not think that rage baiting is at all an effective tactic. I genuinely don't think so. Even if every single reviewer, and most of them probably did do it, made a video on Velma, the conversion percentage into customers from that has got to be microscopic. And what little does exist is almost surely not worth it in relation to the customer loss caused by that. Because I'm sure lots of people were interested in the idea of a new Scooby-Doo show, even one potentially centered around Velma, but after having seen the overwhelmingly negative reception, I doubt a lot of people are today. Again, you can look at the Rings of Power as kind of the macrocosmos view of this, where obviously a lot of people were super duper interested in a Lord of the Rings TV show, but then they sat down, actually watched it, saw the review scores, saw that Amazon had to ban reviews for several days to avoid it, and a lot of people weren't so interested anymore. Which is again why we have seen, of course, the development studio behind the Rings of Power be downgraded. Now, people are also arguing that they were kicked out of New Zealand because New Zealand wouldn't give them the tax breaks they were looking for, and obviously that has to do with it, it's part of the thing, but it's also because it wasn't going to be profitable, and so they needed bigger tax breaks to subsidize their production, and so it was either that or move to a crappy London studio where they're going to be able to produce a qualitatively lesser product, even worse than Season 1, which will benefit us all greatly, I have no doubt. So, no, I do not think that the hate-watching is a problem here. I genuinely don't think so. Like, the percentage of it is undoubtedly minuscule. I also don't think that the rage bait approach is effective. In fact, if anything, if that is what they are trying to do, I am 98% sure it bites them in the ass far more than it helps them. And as for it being reverse propaganda against the wokists, well, here's the thing. There wasn't actually all that much wokeism in Velma. It had a lesbian kiss, but you could argue that is part of the agenda, sure, but I don't view the idea of lesbianism in and of itself as inherently wokeist propaganda. I reacted to it in the Buzz Lightyear movie, for example, because that was created by a studio who expressly told us it was their agenda, okay? There's the difference. As for Velma being race-swapped, again, is it part of it? Well, it's a self-insert, and it certainly undermines the wokeist position, no doubt about it. And placing it in a show this awful also undermines it. The fact that Velma is also a blatant racist also doesn't help, but it doesn't really push a political point of view, really. Which I suppose you could also argue is the point. It simply makes wokeists look like absolutely god-awful people. But then again, Velma isn't even that woke. If she had a a long-form rant against the patriarchy at some point, maybe. But she just seems to be a genuine, actual racist who hates white people. Which, if that is the political position of today's modern-day left, then I stand corrected, I do suppose. But I think in most cases like this, Occam's razor once again flies into view, namely that the easiest, simplest explanation is probably the correct one. In this case, it's just a really, really god-awful animated show. And there's no really great agenda there. At least that's my point of view. Do let me know what you think as well down in the comment section down below, because I do know that the hate-watching debate is heated at the moment, so I'd like to see the opposing points of views as well. And until next time, I've been Arch, thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.